A lightning rod in American society, the upcoming Superman 2025 film has already been a lightning rod, rousing political controversy, separating fandoms, and fueling fiery headlines throughout the globe. The film has not even touched cinemas yet, but it has already become widely discussed. The vision that director James Gunn has for the most iconic hero in the DC universe is one that is daring, personal, and unabashedly contemporary. Unfortunately, this is precisely what has caused it to be so divisive. Let's unpack the 7 biggest controversies shaping this polarizing blockbuster and what they reveal about the state of fandom, politics, and pop culture in 2025. 1. The immigrant metaphor sparks political backlash. James Gunn's interpretation of Superman as an immigrant metaphor was the spark that ignited the film's initial and most divisive criticism. In interviews with publications like Time, The Wrap, and India Today, Gunn portrayed the journey that Kal-El took from Krypton to Earth as a metaphor for the experience of being an immigrant in the United States. Arriving as an outsider, confronting fear and distrust, and making the decision to rise above it with compassion and moral courage. Gunn stated, "It's the story of America all over again. An individual who originates from a different location, who provides hope, and who strives to make the world a better place." Despite the fact that this framing was warmly received by progressive supporters and media, it was met with scathing criticism by conservative voices. Ben Shapiro, Kellyanne Conway, and Greg Gutfeld and Jesse Waters, both of whom are anchors on Fox News, were among the prominent critics who accused the movie of introducing left-wing ideology into a symbol that is deeply cherished by the American people. On the show The Five, Gutfeld even made a joke about how the cape of Superman should now read MS-13. This was a deliberate allusion to Latin American immigration, which is frequently utilized as a talking point by conservatives. Cain, who had previously portrayed Superman, added gasoline to the flames by expressing his concern, saying, "How woke is Hollywood going to make this character? From this point forward, it is not about Superman. Rather, it is about spreading a message." The discussion on the internet escalated into a cultural conflict, with hashtags such as #Superwoke and #NotMySuperman trending for several days consecutively. The critics asserted that Gunn was redefining Superman as a progressive icon rather than a universal hero, while the supporters argued that the immigrant metaphor has always been a part of the character's DNA ever since his introduction in 1938. Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, who were Jewish immigrants, were the ones who invented the character. This framing effectively turned Superman 2025 into a lightning rod for bigger questions about patriotism, identity, and what or who Superman is meant to represent in today's divided America. Specifically, the arguments revolved around what Superman might possibly represent. 2. Cast and crew clash with critics. Still, conservative backlash continued, especially across talk radio, YouTube commentary, and Reddit threads. Many commentators claimed the creative team was antagonizing fans and doubling down on divisiveness, but others saw it as a necessary stand. A creative team refusing to water down a message of empathy for the sake of controversy avoidance. As the debate raged on, it became clear that the film had become more than just a summer blockbuster. It was now a cultural flashpoint. The insistence on portraying Superman as an immigrant, as a symbol of resilience, hope, and inclusivity, drew both fierce criticism and passionate defense. For critics, it represented a politicization of a beloved character. For supporters, it was a reclaiming of Superman's roots, a refugee from another world who chooses to use his power to protect and uplift others. Rather than retreat from the political firestorm, the filmmakers embraced it as an opportunity to clarify the values they believed were intrinsic to the Superman mythos. James Gunn and his team argued that the backlash was, in part, proof of why the story needed to be told this way. In their eyes, the anger revealed just how far public discourse had strayed from the foundational ideals Superman represented: compassion, justice, and standing up for those who can't stand up for themselves. The studio, while walking a fine line between public relations and artistic integrity, released a statement affirming its commitment to telling stories that reflect the world we live in. Stories that challenge, inspire, and resonate across generations. It was a subtle yet firm backing of the film's message. Ultimately, the controversy surrounding the film became part of its legacy. Whether embraced or rejected, it forced audiences to reckon with who Superman is and who he should be, in a time when definitions of heroism, patriotism, and morality are more contested than ever. In this polarized climate, the film's refusal to compromise its themes wasn't just a creative choice. It was, for better or worse, a statement. Third, removed Krypto scene, the Ultraman backlash. For many fans, the Krypto incident reinforced fears that Superman 2025 was straddling an awkward line, trying to be both gritty and inspirational, and pleasing neither side fully. The fallout from the scene amplified existing concerns about the film's tonal direction, concerns that had simmered beneath the surface during early marketing cycles. Critics questioned whether the film truly understood what made Superman enduring, not just his power, but his restraint, compassion, and moral clarity. The image of Krypto being attacked by an alternate version of Superman struck many as emblematic of a creative team testing boundaries for shock value rather than storytelling necessity. Industry insiders pointed to the moment as a symptom of franchise tension, the struggle to merge James Gunn's signature edge with the classical idealism of Superman. "You can't Deadpool your way through a Superman movie," one former Warner Brothers executive anonymously commented. That dog-punching scene didn't just miss the tone, it betrayed the character. Worse still, the backlash wasn't limited to fans or casual viewers. Animal rights organizations chimed in, condemning the scene for normalizing violence toward animals for entertainment, and urging studios to be more thoughtful in their depictions, real or fictional. Warner Brothers responded swiftly, issuing a second, more direct statement, apologizing for the inclusion of the scene in test screenings and reaffirming the studio's commitment to heroic storytelling that uplifts rather than disturbs. While the studio moved quickly to erase the scene from public consciousness, it lingered in online discourse. Memes mocking the decision proliferated, with some dubbing Ultraman the John Wick villain of the DCU. Others saw the outrage as overblown, arguing that fictional violence against a superpowered dog wasn't tantamount to real-world cruelty. But the moment had struck a nerve, not just for what it showed, but for what it suggested, a creative direction at odds with the heart of Superman's world. In the weeks following, Gunn and co-creators leaned hard into course correction. Promotional material emphasized warmth, hope, and Superman's emotional connections, especially with Krypto, who was reintroduced in trailers in much more lighthearted, heroic contexts. Cast members joined in, playfully sharing behind-the-scenes photos with the canine actor and assuring fans that Krypto's doing just fine. But the damage control couldn't fully erase the impression that Superman 2025 had flirted with cynicism before reining itself back. For a film aiming to re-establish Superman as a symbol of light in a cynical age, the Krypto controversy became a cautionary tale. Even one misstep, especially involving a beloved superdog, can cast a long shadow over a movie trying to step into the sun. What's next? Stick around, and because we're diving into the twists, reveals, and hidden details you won't want to miss. Some of what's coming might just change everything you thought you knew about the Man of Steel. But before we jump back in, if you're new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you're always first to catch our deep dives, fan theories, and breakdowns of the biggest moments. 4. Casting and tone disputes. Cornswet versus Cavill. Brosnahan's lowest casting. David Cornswet as the new Superman was always going to draw comparisons. And boy did it. The 6'4" actor brings a retro vibe that calls back to Christopher Reeve's clean-cut charm, contrasting sharply with Henry Cavill's brooding, powerful portrayal. Cornswet's Superman is lighter in tone, idealistic, soft-spoken, and introspective. For fans nostalgic for the Reeve era, this is a return to form. But for many others, especially those still loyal to the Snyderverse, it feels like a downgrade. This guy looks like a Sears catalog model, not a Kryptonian god. No hate, but Cavill was Superman. This guy feels like a reboot of a reboot. Meanwhile, Rachel Brosnahan's Lois Lane has generated her own wave of criticism. Clips showing her confronting Superman, challenging his motives, and grilling him with intense journalistic fervor have drawn mixed reactions. Some praise her modern interpretation of Lois, fearless, ambitious, and driven, as the perfect counterbalance to Clark's humility. Others argue she comes off as aggressive and unlikable. The film's emotional spine, a Superman defined by empathy rather than omnipotence, resonated across generational lines. For younger audiences unfamiliar with Reeves' charm or Snyder's shadow, this Clark Kent offered a fresh, grounded idealism. For older fans, it felt like a recalibration. Less messiah, more man, and perhaps more needed in an era starved of uncomplicated hope. Still, fractures remain. While Gunn's take is winning some hearts, others continue to call for the restoration of the Snyderverse or push for alternate versions of Superman more aligned with their vision. The fan base, invigorated but splintered, is now a landscape of competing narratives, some celebratory, others nostalgic or resistant. Warner Brothers now faces the challenge of capitalizing on this momentum without alienating the base it's slowly rebuilding. Can they craft a DCU that accommodates optimism without ignoring complexity? Can they elevate lesser-known characters while anchoring the universe in Superman's mythic gravity? One thing is certain, the success of Superman 2025 has reopened a door many thought shut. The character, long weighed down by creative missteps and competing visions, has reclaimed cultural relevance. And while the path forward is anything but smooth, the first step has been taken, boldly, defiantly, and against the odds. Superman, it turns out, doesn't need a perfect world to soar. He just needs a chance. The most political Superman ever? James Gunn wanted to make a Superman for the 21st century. Kind, complex, morally grounded. But in doing so, he also made one of the most politically charged superhero movies in modern history. Is this Superman's most political turn? Or his most human? Maybe it's both. And maybe that's exactly why it matters. Fan debates raged across X and Reddit, with hashtags like #BossLois and #TooMuchLois trending simultaneously. Critics raised concerns about chemistry between the leads, while supporters applauded the dynamic as fresh and relevant. Together, the new Superman and Lois reflect a tonal shift, away from epic grandeur and toward emotional realism. The question is whether fans will embrace it. 5. Trailer CGI and technical concerns. Some fans were more forgiving, noting that even Marvel has dropped early trailers with incomplete visuals. But with Superman, arguably the most iconic superhero in the world, expectations are significantly higher. The teaser's backlash wasn't just about aesthetics. It tapped into a deeper distrust that's been brewing among DC fans for years. A fear that studio mismanagement, tight deadlines, and VFX crunch culture are undermining the quality of their most important properties. After The Flash's heavily criticized effects and the publicized struggles behind Justice League's post-production, audiences have grown wary of early assurances. For many, the Superman 2025 trailer felt like déjà vu. Another glossy promise with a potentially undercooked payoff. VFX professionals, both current and former, also weighed in online. Some defended the early footage, explaining how trailers often rely on placeholder shots pulled before final compositing and rendering. Others pointed out that the industry's pipeline issues, exacerbated by unrealistic turnaround expectations and the increasing demand for spectacle, make unfinished trailers almost inevitable. Still, that didn't stop the memes comparing Superman's flight to a PS3-era game, or suggesting Gunn had inherited Zack Snyder's stylized visuals without his polish. The situation put Warner Brothers in a familiar yet precarious position, managing fan outrage while racing against time. Insiders hinted that the studio had reallocated additional post-production resources to polish key sequences, particularly the much-hyped Krypton flashback in Superman's first public rescue. Gunn himself reportedly conducted multiple late-stage review sessions, personally overseeing changes to lighting, physics simulation, and character animation to ensure the final product felt grounded yet mythic. By the time the second full-length trailer dropped, reactions were notably more positive. The spaceflight scene had been re-rendered with sharper textures, better motion blur, and more natural lighting. Fans acknowledged the improvement, but some remained skeptical. Burned one too many times by promising trailers that didn't reflect the final product. Ultimately, the VFX discourse became another front in the battle over what Superman 2025 represents. A rebirth of DC cinematic storytelling, or yet another cautionary tale in a long line of studio overreach and fan disappointment. The pressure on the finished film was now not only to tell a compelling story, but to look like a $200 million flagship. Because for Superman, anything less than spectacular just doesn't fly. Sixth, Trump meme sparks real-world political fire. As the film's political subtext became more widely debated, the controversy bled into real-world politics. A MAGA-aligned super PAC shared a viral meme of Donald Trump dressed as Superman, flying through Washington with heat vision eyes. The meme was widely interpreted as a direct response to Gunn's immigrant framing, reasserting Superman as a symbol of nationalism, not globalism. Critics labeled the meme childish, parodic, and dangerous. Media coverage from Time and Vanity Fair pointed out the irony. A character who champions humility and moral justice was being turned into a symbol of authoritarian strength. On Reddit and fan forums, the meme became yet another flashpoint. Now Superman is part of the 2024 election cycle. Wild. The culture war really ruined fandoms. The meme may have been unserious, but its impact was very real. It further polarized discussions around the film and confirmed what many already sensed. This wasn't just a movie anymore. It was a proxy war for American values. 7. Box office versus backlash. Is Superman still bulletproof? Whether Superman 2025 is a one-off success or the start of a true DCU renaissance remains to be seen. But the message is clear: Superman can still fly, even through a storm. In a media landscape often dominated by cynicism, franchise fatigue, and online tribalism, the film's commercial win feels both improbable and instructive. It suggests that beneath the noise, the debates over tone, VFX, casting, and canon, there remains a deep yearning for stories that balance spectacle with sincerity. Superman 2025 may not have pleased everyone, but it struck a chord powerful enough to draw crowds, spark conversations, and, at least temporarily, reignite interest in a cinematic universe many had written off.